So, a week or two ago, France became, as the article that I have here on screen states, the only country in the world to recognize the so called right to an abortion and enshrine that into the constitution of their country, which basically puts it on par with all the other human rights that constitutional documents grant to their citizens. Now, I was going to cover this when it actually came out, and I was going to talk about how tragic it is that baby murder is being considered a right now, and it's supposed to be protected. But it kind of slipped my mind, and I decided not to cover it because I saw a whole bunch of things and a whole bunch of people covering that. What brought it back to my attention was when my friend showed me this headline about how supposedly the EU is voting to make abortion a fundamental right in their EU fundamental rights charter, which, if you don't know, just basically tells you what the fundamental rights that all of the EU citizens can enjoy and what rights they have. And they are thinking of adding abortion to that supposedly. Now, the headline was kind of iffy, it was off. I looked it up, didn't find very credible seeming sources, so I'm not going to state that as a fact. But the conversation itself about whether abortion is a right or not is worth having because I've seen that talking point being brought up by the pro abortion side a bunch of times, and it's actually being recognized in constitutions now. So I think the conversation is worth having, and the discussion should be a good one because it's important. It's important uh, discussion to have on whether abortion is a right or not. So I spoke about the
Speech mode off.
European Union Fundamental Rights Charter, and I'm going to read some of
Tie
it.
the union.
Like I said, this is the charter that tells you what rights you have under the European Union, and it will be useful to read these so you can see them so that I can point out something later that is going to be very noticeable um, once you see what these rights are.
Human community and the future generations. The union therefore recognizes the rights, freedoms, and principles set out hereafter. Title I. Dignity. Article 1. Human dignity. Human dignity is inviolable. It must be respected and protected.
Human dignity
Article
is
2.
inviolable and must be respected and protected. Well, it's not being protected, is it?
Right to life.
So here's the right to life, and of course, we already have a contradiction in if you are pro-abortion and you say that human beings have the right to life, and an unborn child is a human being, how can you possibly say that you are for the right to life? It's either you're for the so-called rights to an abortion, or you don't think that there is such a thing as the right to life. That's how you would reconcile this. So this one's actually pretty easy to reconcile. All you have to do is say, I don't think that there is such a thing as the right to life. These other ones are going to get pretty difficult to reconcile.
1. 2. No one shall be condemned to the death penalty or executed. Article 3. Right to the integrity of the person.
Right to the integrity of the person.
1.
Okay.
Everyone has the right to respect for his or her physical and mental integrity. 2. In the fields of medicine and biology, the following must be respected in particular. Table with column 2. The free and informed consent of the person concerned, according to the procedures laid down by law. Out of table column
Okay,
2.
so that's
Out
talking
of table
about
column. Out of
biological
column
stuff.
2. The prohibition of the reproductive cloning of human beings. Out of table article 4. Prohibition of torture and inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment.
So you have the right not to be tortured.
No
basically.
prohibition article 5. Prohibition of slavery and forced labor.
No one has the right to
1,
enslave.
2, free title 2, freedoms. Article 6, right to liberty and
right to liberty.
everyone. Articles respect for private and family life.
Right to be respected in your private
Every
life.
article.
Your right to privacy.
Protection
basically.
1, every 2, so the person accessed 3. Compliance with these rules shall be subject to control by an independent authority. Article 9, right to marry and right to found a family.
Right to marry, right to have a family. So these are rights supposedly given to people. Now you will notice a problem immediately is that all of these rights, the right to liberty, the right to marry, the right to freedom, all of these things, the right to not be tortured and not be enslaved, all of these things, guess what they rest on? the right to life. If you can't even have your right to life be respected, how is it that anybody has these so-called fundamental rights? You can't have liberty, freedom, and all those things without life. So the person who's in favor of abortion has to reconcile the contradiction between believing that these fundamental rights exist and that you have them and that you have the human right to be free and all those things, while at the same time being for the destruction on the foundation on which those rights rest. So you have to pick one. Either you are pro-abortion and thus basically waive away all fundamental rights, and you have to explain how they work if you are in favor of destroying the foundation, or you're against abortion and you have to protect the right to life so that you can actually exercise the rest of these rights that you have. So it basically comes down to this. You have to choose whether it's a fundamental right for you to be able to come in and end the life of another human being in its early stages, or if it's a fundamental right for you to be protected against someone being able to come in and destroy your life at the early stages so that you can actually exercise the rest of your rights and live your life and have your human dignity and have those things be respected, especially because abortion definitely violates human dignity if you know how the procedure is done. But that's a whole different topic. And if you pick the latter, then congratulations, you're pro-life. You are in favor of preserving the thing that makes these rights even possible. And if you pick the former, then you now have to explain on what ground you can justify fundamental rights even being able to exist if you are in favor of ripping out the foundation under them. It doesn't make any sense because life makes these things possible. And so what you end up doing if you hold to this position is you end up destroying all human rights, because it turns out that if there can't be human life, there can't be human rights. I mean, it's simple logic. So I would love to see how a pro-choicer reconciles these contradictions. One, I would like you to explain how you are in favor of protecting fundamental rights when you're in favor of destroying the foundation that they rely off of. And two, I would like you to explain how fundamental rights can even exist if you're in favor of the destruction of the thing that makes those things possible, which is human life.